All right. Number 2 is done. Did you learn anything already about your early history? Never learned in school? Okay. I didn't learn in school either that. I had to throw all that out. Customs. This will be real quick. Everything that you might have grown up with. You see the wreaths, okay, at Christmas time. They're starting to put them out at springtime too now. The poisonous plants. Do you never know that all the plants that come out, the mistletoe, the poinsettia, and the holly are all poisonous. That a young child, if they were to bite on part of that plant, could die. Okay? And animals die all the time because they like to get into plants. The mistletoe, I think everybody knows there's something with that. Christmas cookies. That goes back to paganism. Now, it's not a pagan thing to cook cookies, okay? But understand what I'm talking about here. We're not going that deep. Don't mess with Grandma's cookies. From a source in Volume 12, pages 153 to 155, called the Bibliotheca, I don't know what that means, Sacra. It's one of those, degreed type of books.
Sacred library.
Thank you very much. Quote, the interchange of presents between friends is a like characteristic of Christmas and the Saturnalia of Rome. This went on before the time of our Lord, and must have been adopted by the Christians from the pagans, as the admonition of Tertullian plainly shows. Now, Tertullian was an early church father from about the 3rd or 4th century, somewhere in that realm. Now, you have the star on top of the tree. I'm not going to talk about it. It comes from paganism. You have the figurines, the bulbs and the lights. Of course, they didn't have electricity back then. Things that they used to put candles on the tree, and there was many home fires, okay, because of the candles. All kinds of things. These things, if there's something that you really want to know about, we do have information on that. I just don't want to focus my whole time on these things, and I will be more than willing to stay even after we get off the internet for those of you that want to talk about and ask questions on those things. All right, now we come back to Santa Claus. I was one of those kids that grew up and my parents lied to me. And how many Christians today lie to their parents? Until they're about 4 or 5 or 6 in that range, and they say, well, it really isn't a Santa Claus. That's number 1, thou shalt not lie. That is it's so innocent. You know what you're doing, you're lying. You're teaching your kid to teach their kids to lie, teach their kids about Santa Claus. Okay? Now, the story goes as this, and of course the Catholic Church has changed their background on this guy. I hope that only my background can have a lot more added to it after I'm gone, if I really existed. Because we don't know absolutely for sure if everything attributed to this bishop, who was St. Nicholas. He was a bishop from the 4th century, and according to Catholic doctrine, he was present at the Constantine's Nicene Creed. And yet he is so big in the world today as being the forerunner behind this person called Santa Claus that we know in America. How come all the things that we have about all the bishops that were at the Council of Nicaea never list him? And he's a pretty important guy, isn't he? How would he go unnoticed? There's a lot of mystery. We know for sure that the Catholic tradition has added a lot of things way after the fact, if this person actually existed. Okay? They have a tomb today they say is him. There's just been so much misinformation, we don't even know if the guy really existed. But anyway, let me read some things here. As far as referring to America, some of the Dutch colonists that we talked about earlier that were in America brought over their version of Santa Claus was called Sinterklaas. Sinterklaas. Okay? And he evolved today to what we have as Santa Claus. Okay? And boy, he's made a lot of money for the American business, hasn't he? This year he's a little bit down though. Okay? In Holland, Sinterklaas sails in on a ship arriving on December 6th. Now, we also started here in America a tradition that he comes on Thanksgiving. Remember? Oh yeah. It's even going back and back. Before he'll be coming the day before the Christmas, the following year.
That's Santa Claus.
It could be. He comes out in Holland. Santa Claus sails in. These are true. This is, by the way, this is from I think it's one of the encyclopedias. I don't have. It's in the reference that you have on the website. Santa Claus sails in on a ship arriving on December 6th. He carries a big book which tells him how the Dutch children have behaved during the past year. Now I want you to understand what is going on here and be able to see how we watch the movies such as Superman. Everybody's heard of Superman in America, right? And he's this superhuman person from another planet. And he's like God. He's like the Messiah, okay, in the picture, in the image. What about E.T.? Everybody see that little cute movie all the kids watch, E.T.? And then the promise, he always a promise he's going to return, like a second coming. These things are done intentionally by Hollywood makers. Intentionally. A cultic that is done to brainwash us into not being able to distinguish who our real God is, who the real Messiah is, and lump it all together into all this paganism. But if he's carrying a big book and he's checking his list to see who's naughty and nice, what do you...
Like the book of life.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. The book of life and the book of death. You see how it's playing out here? Okay? And they put a little magic and touch on to make it look good and all that stuff. And good children are rewarded with gifts, but in Holland, even today, the bad ones, now, of course, if it happens literally, then there needs to be some investigations going on. It's all symbolism. The bad ones are taken away by Santa Claus's assistant. Now, in America, we have little elves and reindeer, but in a lot of these other cultures that predate the modern Santa Claus, that had the precursor to Santa Claus in their nations in Europe and elsewhere, he had a partner with him. Okay? And in Holland, Santa Claus's partner was named Black Peter. Okay? Now Santa Claus has the white beard, he's got the hair of wool, and who's he representing? He's representing God. And he flies the power of the air with reindeer and a sleigh and all that. It's all symbolism to get your minds away from a holy God to focus on something else. Okay? Now Black Pete carries a birch rod, and how they scare the kids is he's going to whip the naughty children, so you better be good. I'm not making this up, okay? In Germany, St. Nicholas also travels with an assistant known, you should look, I've seen these on the internet, you can look these up. I think you have a Santa Claus printout on the website, and if you look these up and you get some images of the way that the modern understanding in Germany of how these creatures look, they're devilish looking. And St. Nicholas's assistant is known as Knecht Ruprecht, Krampus, and Beelzebub. Almost sounds like Beelzebub. Okay? And this guy, the assistant, comes with a sack on his back and a rod in his hand. Good children receive a gift, but naughty children are punished by the assistant with a few hits of the rod. Okay? The Scandinavian countries celebrate with an elf called the Julenissi or the Juletomte, who bears gifts. In England, Father Christmas. And more austere and thinner version of Santa Claus brings gifts. In France, Father Christmas or Père Noël brings gifts for the children. Switzerland has Christkindl. Now this gives a dead giveaway right here. You write this down. Christkindl in Switzerland. Now this is a German name. Do you know what that means?
Christ child.
Christ child. Now, when I was a kid, I think it's still on, we used to watch Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and all these little cartoon Christmas things as kids growing up. There was a name for the little boy that grew up to be Santa Claus. What was his name?
Kris Kringle.
Kris Kringle. Okay? Kris Kringle is an Anglicization of the Christ child, the Christkindl.